So now we're going to work on brushing and grooming our dog. So Dexter's going to get a few treats here just to kind of get him started. And I usually start with his neck up here. And I just use one of his combs and I just slowly start to work my way down. Because I groom Dexter about every day, maybe every other day, that keeps him pretty snaggle free, and so his grooming isn't really much of an issue for him. Although he's a little excited because I'm talking and he doesn't understand that there's nobody there. That's a good boy. And so I just slowly work my way. I don't want to do any pulling and jamming and hurting him in any way. So I want to do things nice and slowly. We want to make sure, especially with long-haired dogs, that we're getting underneath those ears. So we want to lift those ears up and kind of work our way there. And if there is a little snaggle, then what I do is I hold it at the base so that I'm holding the fur and not his ear, and that way I can slowly work it out. And when I work it out with my comb or his brush, I'm going to start at the end of the snaggle. So I would start down here and slowly work my way through that snaggle. And again, I'm holding his hair so that if there's any pulling, it's not going to pull his ear, it's going to pull the hair instead. I see you, buddy. I know. And so we're just going to start here with his chest. And I'm just kind of feeling as I go along. I'm also kind of feeling his body to make sure everything's okay. You're fine. And again, normally he's very patient and he's very quiet during his groom, but he's getting ready to start to sing a song because he's a little excited. So maybe if I stop talking to the pretend people over there, he'll settle down. So I start at the top and I work my way down. So I'm starting at the top of his ear and holding any snaggling areas and just slowly working my way down and through all of his fur. You can also use a brush, and I tend to use a slicker brush, but it just sort of depends on the dog's coat and what your preference is. As long as you're getting through, you're okay. And if you brush your dog on a regular basis, you won't usually find too many snaggles, and then they won't really mind so much. And then we're just going to work from his neck and work all the way down his body. When it comes time for his tail or a piece of his body that I need to manipulate, I usually grab a treat and move him around. So I can take a treat and I can bring him around this way and then down. And then I can grab this back end over here. So that while he's in this position, now I can groom this area of his body. And then I just work my way around. Good boy. And I do it nice and gently. Again, I don't want to pull his fur. And you don't need to sing to everybody. And then I just work my way around his tail. And again, I'm going to be very gentle, but I want to make sure that I get it all. And I'm usually talking to him throughout the process. And after I do the top of him, I want to make sure I do his belly and under his armpits, because his armpits are usually where we get any snaggles, especially because he wears a harness and sometimes it rubs back there. So Dexter's been handled a lot as a puppy, and I've reinforced him for really good behaviors. So he's really easy to manipulate and move around without being stressed. So all I actually have to do for Dexter is just kind of lean him over, and he's just trying to smell the treat. There we go. And I usually flip his ear back. And then I want to get underneath his armpits. So I usually use his comb then. So I just lift up his arm, and I just start to work my way really gently. And I just go under there. And again, I really want to make sure that I'm feeling underneath this armpit to make sure I'm getting any kind of snaggle that might be hiding out. If I do find a snaggle, sometimes I might just take my scissors and just cut it out instead of even pulling and ripping on it. Especially if that snaggle is in his armpit, because no one's going to see underneath his arm, so having it nice and short really doesn't matter. I want to work my way all through his belly, and I don't want to forget under his thighs. So when I'm lifting his leg up, I want to make sure that I'm lifting it up with his leg and not lifting it up really high or at a weird angle. So I'll go right there with him, and this is where I usually use my comb. I just gently make sure that I don't have any snaggles hanging out. And I also want to make sure that I get this back end over here too and around his tail. So now that Dexter's fully brushed, the next thing that I need to do is I need to think about these fuzzy feet. Let me show you Dexter. And about taking care of them. So I'm going to go ahead and take our clippers and clip through them. Because I can't talk with those clippers on because there's quite a hum going on, when you're doing your dog's feet, you want to make sure that we're doing the tops of them to keep them kind of nice and trim, and then the bottoms of them, especially for these fuzzy feet. Because if they're not trimmed up, they're going to be very slippery. It's going to be like him really walking on those slippers. And we want to make sure that we have traction. Certain breeds like the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, they actually like them to have fuzzy feet, but we want to make sure that we're still trimming the underside of those fuzzy feet so that they do have that traction. If you want to keep those top slippers, you want to make sure that you're going to brush them every day or every other day because they also knot up just like the rest of their fur. So you're going to take your comb and your brush and you're going to push their hair up between their toes and you're going to brush that out. That way you don't have any knots in there. So when I do Dexter's foot, I want to pick up his foot pad and I take the clippers and I just kind of go inside there and inside those pads to kind of get that fur that's in there. Because if not, that fur will knot up. I have seen knots in dogs' pads because they weren't groomed and they weren't brushed. And when you're going to clip them or even take the scissors to them, what you can do is you can pull that fur right between their toes and then you can just take it over the top or take your clipper over the top. And then I just try to do a nice little round cut, kind of get in there. I do expose a lot of his nails because I think that makes it easier for when we go get our nail trim, which is the next stop. I usually trim up his feet first and then we go get the nail trim. That way she can see his nails really nicely. Good stay, buddy. Good boy. Good boy. Okay. Okay, back over. So a little bit of a hack job, but my goal is never about beauty. My goal is to be able to do this as quickly as possible for Dexter so that he can tolerate it, and to be nice and clean cut down there so that he's not so dirty and he doesn't pick up all the leaves. If you want to have a prettier foot, you can just take your time and go little by little. I actually also stagger Dexter's grooming, meaning we do a big bath, and then the next day I give him a big brush out, and then the next day I do his feet, so that he's not doing it all at once. I of course obviously do his back feet, but for this video I wanted to go ahead and show you what I do around his ears, because I want to help him keep those ears clean. So I wanted to show you his ears. Come here, buddy. You ready? So I do keep the length, but I do come in here and I trim underneath there to kind of give him a little more airflow. And he doesn't like to be groomed, so if they're furry, that means that's one more spot that I have to brush every day to make sure that they don't get snaggled up. So instead I do a little trim to kind of keep them light and easier to brush. And he really doesn't like this. He doesn't tolerate this one nearly as well as his feet. So let's see. Can I get you this way? So I just want to open that up, find his ear canal. So if I trim underneath here, it won't matter about the look of his ears because all that fur is on the outside. So there we go. And I just do a quick little trim there. I just kind of clean up inside. I don't get real deep in there, just kind of around there. And that's about all I do. But even that little bit, as you see, brings a lot of hair. See that? And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side. But before I do that, let's go ahead and show you his legs. So his feathers right here, normally for this breed, are huge. They're big, they're long, which also means they grab every leaf, every stick that he's walking on. And again, for him, since he doesn't like to be groomed, I try to make things as easy as possible for him. So I do actually trim them up to make them kind of short like this. Again, normally they're down here and dragging along. So what I do with those, and he just had that done not too long ago, so they're actually about the length I normally keep them, but I'll just give you a quick demo. So I just kind of stand him up and scoot him over. And normally we're doing this in our bathroom, but we're obviously out here. And I just let him stand up. And again, for me, I'm not looking for perfection. And I just come down. I just kind of trim them up a little bit. I can go back in there, fix that up. I can also use the clippers to do that as well. I do his underside too. Keep him nice and clean. Ready? Down. So around this groin area, that's been cleaned up already for him, but I'll just go in for another little trim. Normally, again, that's very thick, but he doesn't need that to be thick, especially since we don't want him to potty on it. And I just take the clippers and I just kind of thin that out a little bit just to make sure it's nice and easy. The same thing with his chest. Normally that fur is really long, so while he's standing up, I just take the clippers just like I did his leg over there and kind of shorten it up to whatever length I'm looking for. The next thing that I do is this back end. Again, with this breed, they're very furry. So that also means with these long feathers that they normally have, he poops on them a lot. He'll do a squat, the feathers lay out, and his poop will go right on top. So instead, I keep them nice and trimmed up as well, definitely during that potty area. So can we stay there? And I just take my clippers. And I'll just work my way to whatever it is that I'm looking for, however short that I want to do it. And then the same thing with his tail. Normally that's really long. I can use that with the clippers as well. Or I can use the scissors if I feel like using the scissors. And sometimes I'll show you with the scissors. So with the scissors, what I might do is, can you stand up there? He's kind of leaning. Ready? Can you stand, stay? Is I just take it here. And I just start cutting kind of a little bit of an arc. You want to make sure, obviously, we're not getting that tailbone in there. And you're just going to go to the length that you're looking for. I just do some kind of rough cuts in there. I look for any stragglers. And then we keep moving from there. The other part of Dexter's groom is his Fu Manchus. So what he normally has are these really big whiskers that come off to the side of his face. So I do take him into the groomer and have them clip those off because I don't feel comfortable enough trimming those off myself. He's a little too squirmy for me to do, but he does really well at the groomer and she just trims those. The other thing that the groomer does for me is that she trims his nails because I've never been someone who's very comfortable about doing a nail trim, and obviously we need to have our nails trimmed often. Dexter's about 3 weeks he gets his nails done, and then that's of course when he gets his face done as well. I used to do my golden retriever's nails. We'd do one nail, he'd get a bite of bacon, and then we would do the other nail the next day and we'd build from there. But since Dexter's comfortable about the groomer, we just go ahead and have her do it so that it's nice and fast and I'm not worried about it. In the forum, I'm going to actually give you a link to a really nice video on how to do your dog's nails. If you're looking for a really nice, perfect cut, you can take your time. You can even go on the internet and look for some other how-to videos, or you can take them into a professional groomer. For Dexter, my goal is to be able to just make sure that he's comfortable and that we can get our trim done quickly so that he can move on and be Dexter and do something extra fun. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and don't be afraid, just go ahead and give it a shot. If you're going to use scissors, you really want to be very careful that you don't stab your dog and that they're really comfortable about doing these things. Obviously, I taught Dexter that these clippers were safe and not scary way before I started to put him next to his feet. So all I did was turn it on really fast and then give him a treat. Turn it on really fast and then give him a treat. And then I just built. You know, I just kind of got him a little more comfortable with it. Turned it on, went towards his foot, and gave him a treat. And just slowly he became very comfortable, and as you see, he's able to spin around on his back and let me hold his feet and get going. So we just want to take things really slow, even if it's just 1 foot at a time.